Thank you very much to Paul and Darren for those great words. And I'm now going to quickly move on to the first panel of the day and invite Laura Dyer, the Deputy Chief Executive Arts Council, and the panel to come to the stage. So I can welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm rocking the Madonna mic, which is very exciting for me. Don't get to do this very often. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the panel who are joining us today. Today's first session is to look at the kind of partnerships that exist between local, regional, and national organisations, but in place. They're kind of opposite, I think you'll hear, of parachuting in. How do you really build kind of meaningful partnerships and relationships where work is truly community-led, but using the kind of skills and experiences of organisations from across the country? And so we've got three great expositions for you on some of that experience. We're really tight on time, as Rebecca has already said and has reminded me. So we're going to keep it quite focused. At the end, there's an opportunity for you to ask any questions via Mentimeter. So do, as you kind of go through, put those. And also, obviously, over lunch and stuff, the people will be here, so grab them and talk to them there. I'm not going to introduce each of the panel members. You can see their biog in the pack, so do read that because they've got really exciting and varied careers. But without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Ross and Emily. So Ross Millard from Sunderland, who's here representing Sunderland Culture, and Emily Ling from the National Theatre, and they're going to talk about their current project, Public Record. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. So when some people think about Sunderland, they might think of shipbuilding, the coal pits, Pyrex, Nissan, Brexit. But Sunderland is actually a city that's really changing. There's a lot of cultural regeneration going on in the city. There's new roads, new bridges, new hospitals, and a new cultural quarter. The fire station venue opened in 2021. It's an Arts Council England funded, purpose-built auditorium that stands right next door to the Sunderland Empire, which is the city's receiving house that's been there since 1907. The spirit of the city is definitely changing, partially, I think, to an unsuccessful City of Culture bid for 2021, but the momentum of that bid has allowed the cultural community of the city to sort of coalesce and really sort of take root with buildings like Pop Rex and the soon-to-be open Culture House. Sunderland's always been a music city. It's recently been accepted into the Music Cities network to recognise that. And we have artists and performers with gold records to their name, Mercury Music Prize nominees. I think it's widely sort of considered outside of the region that for a city of its size, Sunderland punches well above its weight in terms of its musical output. And years ago, the NME once said that Sunderland was the new Manchester, which obviously we all had a good laugh about. But when the Sunderland Empire and Sunderland Culture were kind of cooking up plans with the National Theatre's Public Acts programme for a new show, the music scene and the musical heritage of the city seemed like a really good place to start. So we have Public Record, a newly devised show that's been co-created with over 100 community participants. It'll be a portrait of the city told through its people with music and dance moves. It'll be a massive act of civic pride, taking us from the past to the present and to the future. We're in rehearsals at the minute, so literally when we finish this, we're having to drive straight back to Sunderland to kind of crack on with those because the show opens in less than a month, but thankfully it's going well for now.
A quick beat on Public Acts, if I can make the... There we go. Public Acts is the National Theatre's flagship programme, which celebrates theatre as an act of community building. We work with community organisations and theatres all over the country, bringing together huge companies of community participants and professional artists to create uplifting, ambitious pieces of participatory theatre. We first began working with Sunderland in 2022. There's a photo of our first production, which was part of our nationwide Odyssey project. And from the beginning, our partnership has been led by a fierce determination and commitment from our local partners to celebrate everything that Ross has talked about, to counteract the all-too lazy narrative of need and deprivation, and instead to show the community and the city as it really is, a place where passionate, brilliant people are coming together to make great things happen. All of Public Act's work is intergenerational and inclusive, defined by our core values of openness, generosity, courage, and the idea of unity through radical joy. Within a culture of care, we create capacity for rigour, mastery, hard work, and a banging show at the end of it. Because, like Darren said, access and excellence go hand in hand. Because feelings of safety and belonging lead to feelings of hope and possibility. People discover new potential and see themselves differently as a result. As one of our community members once said, "I will always want more for my life because I will always know that I have done this." Every week in rehearsals, we have the privilege of seeing the transformative impact of placing communities centre stage and holding space for them to reimagine themselves as theatre makers. Many people discovering for the first time their sense of creativity and the feelings of connection, belonging, and pride that comes from being part of something bigger than ourselves. Sade, another member of our company, recently told us that the sense of community she had found through her experiences with Public Acts were the reason she felt a responsibility to come out with her children and help commit to the clean-up the morning after the riots last summer.
Just to describe the concept and mechanics behind the show, Public Record, this is a community coming together to make an album, a record of ourselves. Basically, the venue, the fire station, will appear as a sort of deconstructed recording studio with a band set up as if they're about to start recording an album. The audience will come in, and the premise is that they're about to kind of witness a live session. Over 12 tracks, we'll go on a journey across the city through time and history, looking at births, deaths, marriages, places where we used to dance, the great things that are happening in Sunderland right now, who we are, where we've come from, and where we want to go. It's about how we choose to tell our story. There'll be over 100 people on stage, and it'll be a mix of professionals and community participants with a lot of guest artists along the way. We're working with two incredible social impact groups from Sunderland, the Young Musicians Project, who are bringing loads of drummers and some great singers to the table, and Dance Jam, who are an incredible street dance troupe. My bandmate Barry Hyde will pop up on keys from time to time. We've got McTighe, rave culture, 3 a.m. dancing. We've got two incredible Afrobeat DJs who'll be joining us in the middle of the show for a big wedding celebration. We'll be paying tribute to musician Faye Fantaro, an incredible emerging artist who sadly died in 2023, just before finishing her debut album. There'll be a cappella singing, big choir moments, a karaoke blowout, and because every album needs at least one love song, ours comes courtesy of the Sunderland Football Club anthem, Can't Help Falling in Love with You, by Elvis Presley, sung by Dave Murray, who is an incredible youth worker who's been working for over 30 years in the city with young people and music, including myself 25 years ago. The whole show will be recorded and pressed onto vinyl, and a copy of that vinyl record will be held in the archive at the British Library and in Sunderland Museum. And we're sort of looking at Public Record as being almost a sort of a framework where other cities and other places can use that sort of structure, that blueprint, to tell their own story with their own dance moves and their own poetry and their own songs. And we'd love to consider the idea that public record might be reimagined in other places, maybe even around the world.
In terms of who we're working with, we've recruited our company members through several partners, including the Sunderland Nigerian Families Support Group, Back on the Map Community Centre in Hendon, and the Connect company, who work with learning disabled adults at the Sunderland Empire. We led 2 terms of workshops with these groups in their community settings prior to rehearsals beginning. And there's our full company. Almost full company. That's the 50-strong community company, and then there are 60 from all the other groups Ross has mentioned as well. A dad and his 2 young kids, a pair of 12-year-old best friends, a retired policewoman, a night nurse, a student who arrived from India the day before we met her, who came to the UK with big dreams of learning about theatre alongside her other studies, and so many others. Our oldest member, Harry, who's in the centre there, is 93 and was born in Ryhope, and our youngest, Fola, who I can't spot but is there somewhere, is 4 and was born in Nigeria. It has been nothing short of life-affirming, feeling this very disparate, very different group of people, of citizens, showing up for each other, for our shared values, for the work, for their city, week on week, feeling them forging into one company, the differences that might previously have divided them gently giving way to our powerful, creative, shared, common goal. We do a lot of passing the mic in rehearsals, giving people the space to celebrate each other, share good news, and say what they want to say. This week, Sade, who I mentioned earlier, wrote a poem inspired by rehearsals. I'd like to share some lines from it to finish because they feel like they sum this up much better than we could. I've got a joyful picture of her, I think. There she is. There's Sade. We are human timestamps, making a record for the love of Sunderland. Different we are, yet in our humanity we shine bright as one. On this stage we are looped, our feet on fire. We choose to breathe the future that binds our cultures. When the curtain closes to this production, the last song on the album is sung. Our paths are sure to lead us in separate ways. But the experience of making this record will paint the colours that will be saved forever. We hope our show will do justice to these feelings about who we are and who we can be as individuals and a community when we come together as a group of citizen artists. And we very much hope you'll come and see the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for a really fascinating presentation. I'm sure you've got lots of questions and thoughts, so hold on to those, put them on Mentimeter. But with further ado, I'm going to move on and ask Daniel McTighe from Barrowful, one of our Creative People and Places projects, and Melissa Daly from Open Theatre in the Midlands.
Ooh, thank you. Hi, so I'm Daniel. I'm Artistic Director of Barrowful, the CPP in Barrow, and we are in our 5th year of delivery as of Tuesday. A key to our success so far has been about strategic partnerships and essentially long-term ones, and the longest-term partnership we've had has been with Open Theatre. It's been about 4 years now. We're also partnering with the Royal Shakespeare Company, Performance Ensemble in Leeds, Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, but the most impactful and the longest-standing partners are Open Theatre.
Hi, I am Melissa Daly and I am Associate Director at Open Theatre. Open Theatre have been working for over 30 years in the West Midlands and beyond. And as an organisation, our main focus is supporting young people with learning disabilities to integrate into the cultural life of the places they live in. We do this through a non-verbal physical theatre practice that has been developed through working in special schools for over 20 years. This collaborative process is about unlocking creativity and helping these young people discover what they are capable of doing.
So, in terms of where our partnership began, when I first came to Barrow, when I was recruited as the director, our consortium had identified a need within the community. There's a higher rate than national average of learning disabled people and young people, and of students in schools classified as SEN. And it wasn't just about those young people themselves, but the communities around them, their families, their carers, and their friends. So what we found, as we find in many CPP places, is that their only challenge in life wasn't just their disability or learning disability, they were multiple and manifold, mainly around poverty, health challenges, and the geographical sort of issues of Barrow as a place. Barrow is infamously described as being at the end of the longest cul-de-sac in Britain. When you get to the end of that cul-de-sac, there's one bridge onto an island, and that's where the special school is. And that's where the main disability youth group is as well. So there was something curious about that and what kind of caused that to happen. So in the very early stages, we took young people from Barrow because it's the end of a train line, but as the late Mike Pearson said, it's also the beginning. So we took them to Birmingham to a youth theatre festival, and they met with Open Theatre, and they liked them. So they invited them to come to Barrow to start to experiment with what might happen.
Yeah, so we wanted to share with you a snapshot of the work that we've been doing up in Barrow for the last 4 years. We recognise the strength in going to communities and young people where they would normally be to ensure that they felt safe and comfortable. So this included regular visits to the only special school in the local area with 110 young people. We worked across the entire school to ensure we could connect in with everyone with what we were offering. We also worked with a number of community organisations who offer different provision for young people with learning disabilities. As these connections grew with the school and community organisations, we were able to develop training opportunities for local practitioners, artists and teaching staff. This was a way of working out how we could embed the work we were doing and empower local people to take ownership and find ways to sustain this provision in years to come. So this programme included bringing people up to the West Midlands and also our team going up north very often. We were really excited to bring our immersive production, Fee Fi Fo Fum, to Barrow in 2023 as part of For With By, which is a European Youth Theatre Festival. We were overwhelmed by the response from the school and public audiences who experienced this work, and we realised that this activity was possibly going to have the most vibrant and dynamic impact on the young people we were working with. We were then invited back up, and this was in March this year, to bring Whispering Willows to Barrow Town Hall. Our immersive performances are devised and performed by actors with learning disabilities, and they are interactive, non-verbal, physical, and every show is slightly different as the audience are given the power to change what happens in them. There are a few bits of feedback on this slide, but one parent really sums up the importance of this work, and it's that young people and the communities around them feeling safe to come to the theatre and fully be themselves. The young people that we are working with are some of the most invisible and isolated members of our society, and these immersive performances enable them to access a cultural offer that is fully accessible and celebrates who they are. It has been a privilege during our time in Barrow to witness these creative moments that are likely to stay with these young people for the rest of their lives.
Now it's me. So a couple of other things that we've collaborated on are international collaborations. So as Mel mentioned, there's the For With By Festival, and there are a few partners from For With By around the room. That's happened in Birmingham, but it's happened in Barrow by the invitation of Barrovians. They decided they wanted this. They wanted youth theatre. They wanted to invite people from across the continent to Barrow, and it's happened since in Madrid. Each time Open Theatre's been a partner, and Barrow residents have been able to kind of meet those people and visitors from elsewhere. And the key thing about that, I think, that offers is the integration of non-disabled people with physically disabled people and learning disabled people. They're brought together by age category, really, but it was eye-opening for many people, and relationships that have been formed personally and nationally and internationally between companies has been really special. And then a new jute route was a project we got British Council funding for to do a collaboration with artists in Calcutta. It was completely designed and devised by Barrovians. It was an idea before I'd even arrived in Barrow that they'd been working up to explore a shared history that Calcutta has with Barrow. And Open Theatre again partnered on that. And there were lots of workshops in Barrow with Calcuttan artists, especially the dance artists, with young learning disabled people. But we also took people from Barrow and neurodivergent adults from Barrow to Calcutta to experience art, creativity, and the whole culture over there. somebody said it was just such a wonderfully different experience.
So what's next? We are planning to co-create our next immersive performance in between Barrow and the West Midlands, and the production will then be performed and tour in both places. This co-creative process will enable us to build on the connections we've made with the young people in their communities over the last few years. So we're currently exploring how to make this happen with the Barrowful team, and we're excited to take the Barrovian creativity back to our existing audiences in the West Midlands.
Barrow takes over the world. So throughout, there have been, obviously there's the aim to empower communities, and that's often been in the decision-making process so far. But with this next step, it's really about two creativities meeting, and that show that, Open Theatre regularly do these shows, but now there's going to be a Barrovian stamp on it. We've actually forced the concept as well, so that came from our young people. And actually, I was going to finish with this, and then Darren nicked my line about experts. So we see this as a coming together of experts. Open Theatre are experts in their practice, but our young people in their communities are the experts in their lived experiences, their lives, and being Barrovian. So it's really about making sure they're on that equal footing with the visiting artists. That's us. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks very much to Daniel and Melissa. And last but by no means least, Sally Lockey from right up our street, our Creative People and Places programme in Doncaster. And stepping in, because Anna is poorly, Beth Lloyd-King. Thank you very much, Beth, from the National Gallery, who we know have been working with a lot of our Creative People and Places projects across the country on the art road trip.
Well, I was going to introduce myself, but it's already been done. So I'll pass straight over to Beth.
Pass straight over. Lovely. Good morning, and it's such a pleasure to be here today, and a big thank you to Sally for inviting us. So I'm here to talk all things art road trip. So firstly, it's been addressed, the elephant in the room. I am not Anna Murray. Anna is our brilliant national programmes manager, who's sadly ill today. So I'm going to do my best to give this brilliant project and all of our amazing partners, who I can see in the crowd today, justice. But I have been part of this project. I'm working with lovely Sally on some of it as well, some of the bits that Sally's going to talk about. So, Art Road Trip. It's an ambitious programme that's taken art and creativity on the road, visiting every region of the UK from May 2024 to May 2025. We're about to finish and have a big old party. This is one of the many projects that we ran at the National Gallery to celebrate our 200th birthday. And at the heart of the Art Road Trip really is the commitment to partnership. It's something about Anna's work I've always really commended, how much she works around partnership. It's really brilliant. The National Gallery is working closely with leading arts organisations across the UK to develop bespoke programmes tailored to local communities. Just some kind of key points. It's to introduce new audiences to art, the National Gallery, and make connections to their local cultural offer, increase awareness of the National Gallery as a collection across the UK, create memorable experiences, raise cultural aspirations, increase local pride, and offer high-quality creative opportunities that are relevant to the people and places we are visiting. And finally, support existing local initiatives by working in partnership with creative organisations to make a positive difference through the arts. Now, you can quite literally think about a van full of art materials travelling across the UK. It really is. And it's full of replica paintings and full of really lovely, high-quality art materials. And it's supported by a brilliant, I can't say how brilliant they are, team of facilitators as well. So, here, talking about replicas, here's some examples of where our paintings have ended up. There's some Titians there. Let's just not tell our curatorial team that that's where they've ended up. And some stats. So, since the launch, the Art Road Trip has already travelled, I've got to get this right, 7,333 miles. We've visited 99 different sites and delivered 144 days of arts activities. And to date, and there's still more to go, we have engaged nearly 13,000 participants, including 40 schools and 48 community groups. Glad I got that right. And Sally's going to talk a little bit about just some of the groups that we have worked with, but it's so broad and it's brilliant. But the crux, I'd say, and crucially, is this idea that art road trip can turn up in unexpected places. From pier fronts to housing estates, ensuring that creativity is accessible in the very heart of communities. A key focus of the programme is broadening access to the National Gallery's collection and supporting creative education and opportunities. We're very aware not everyone can get to Trafalgar Square for many, many reasons, and the collection does belong to the nation. It's my favourite thing to tell children, and they never believe me. They always think it's just the king that owns it all. They're always looking very shocked. I love it. And that's Sade, one of our brilliant facilitators. So, some kind of underlying key principles. It's creating a supportive environment for creative opportunities, inspiring participants to try something new, allowing space for agency through art. And I think there's been a lot of cups of teas. Bringing high-quality materials, introducing new artistic techniques, demonstrating how to support inquiry skills when looking at art. Here's some little examples. And let me tell you, I think coloured masking tape's been the star of the show as well. Goes down an absolute treat wherever you take it. And it's got to be said, this initiative wouldn't be possible without the experts and the expertise and leadership of our partners, who are so deeply embedded in their local communities and committed to delivering high-quality, community-led projects. Each partner has worked really closely with us to create a programme of activity that is responsible, meaningful and impactful to them and their communities. Our partners have enabled us to connect with people and places in ways that we just couldn't be able to ourselves. So I'm now going to hand over to the brilliant Sally, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what we did together in Doncaster. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to read, because I'll waffle otherwise, because I find it quite emotional, this as a project. To give you a bit of backstory, Right Up Our Street deliver work across the city of Doncaster with a population of over 300,000 people. We shape and deliver programmes of work in collaboration with the community. In 2022, Right Up Our Street committed to delivering a long-term programme activity within the Balby Bridge estate. Some of you will have heard me talk about the estate before, and I am very passionate about this location because I am from Doncaster. And yeah, it means an awful lot to me, this piece of work, the people that live there. This city centre estate was built in the 1960s as a means to improve social housing. It was well considered, planned, it has open spaces, play parks, community centres, shopping precinct, a primary school, a number of churches, and a mix of housing stock from high-rise accommodation, masonettes and sheltered accommodation. In short, they thought that it was the dream. It was the place where people would want to live and thrive. Fast forward to 2025, and today the city centre estate is now, sadly, the 55th most deprived area in England. That's 55th out of 32,000 neighbourhoods in the country, making it the most deprived community in South Yorkshire. It's plagued by bad press, a poor reputation, a ring road that separates the estate from the rest of the city. It's often viewed from the outside. Hang on, there's a picture somewhere. There we go. Viewed from the outside, it's viewed as a place that you don't go to. Local pride is at an all-time low. Right Up Our Street's commitment to work with the estate aimed to shift that reputation and to help raise local pride and ambition by listening to the needs and requests of the community and to work with them to deliver a programme of work that is relevant to them. Over the past 3 years, we've set up a community panel and we've had many conversations with the community using art as a vehicle to do so. We've begun to be trusted and we now have open and honest conversations with the people that are living there. The community has told us that visibility, colour, light and vibrancy are all elements that they want us to think about when we're programming for them. Armed with this knowledge, the projects that we've delivered over the last few years include this piece by Rob Ryan. It's a mural on the Central Family Hub, and it looks onto the playground of Atlas Primary School with a large abstract smile looking out at the children at playtime. after we produced that mural, we ended up getting stuck in this little cycle of wall murals because one community group saw that one and wanted one for themselves. So this particular piece was created for the Doncaster and District Deaf Society Community Centre. They came to us and they said that they wanted to be seen, they wanted to be understood, they wanted people to realise what their centre was about. So they asked us to create a piece working alongside artist Hixie that would embed BSL within the artwork itself. Trees was another piece that we delivered. The light installation was programmed and created by the brilliant people at Things That Go On Things. We wanted to bring the community together in the evening in a space that is often considered unsafe after dark, helping to shift perceptions and to reclaim the space. Jamie Bubb's year-long residency on the estate saw him work with over 200 members of the community, capturing their faces and stories through his project, Faces of Bulby Bridge. We were beginning to understand what was important to the people living and visiting the various service providers on the estate. Service providers were also keen for us to not work with them on a one-off basis. They didn't want their service users to feel like they were being picked up and put down. The Deaf Society and the Stirling Centre, who provide daytime activity for older people, adults with learning disabilities, and individuals who require specialist support, were particularly vocal about this. We were also being told by the primary school and family hub that they didn't have the capacity or budget to collaborate, and that families would benefit by more opportunities to work together. So there's still much more work for us to do. But as a team of 4 with a city-wide programme to deliver, Right Past Street's capacity and budget is limited. Oh, I forgot that the film was playing. I'll let you watch that for a minute. This was Jamie's amazing exhibition on the estate. It was fantastic, it was representative, and it brought many of the service providers and community out onto the street to celebrate one another, which is so infrequently done in that location. So coming back to the art road trip, recognising our limitations as a team of 4 and our capacity and budget, we recognise that the value of working in partnership with organisations like the National Gallery would be able to bring. They would be able to layer up the work that we were offering and expand it. It would also bring new skills to the area, and it would enable the community of Bulby Bridge, particularly the children at the local primary school, to be seen and valued on a national level. In October 2024, after a period of discussion and a site visit from the National Gallery's artists, Sade and Chloe, the Art Road Trip team spent 2 weeks working on the estate. I'm going to play this one. The team... start again. The lead-in time for this project was considerable, which meant that the National Gallery's offer was considered and varied and met the needs of many groups that we worked with. We chose to work with a number of our existing partners on the estate, ranging from the Central Family Hub, Atlas Primary, the Deaf Society, and the Conversation Club that supported refugees and asylum seekers. During a series of workshops inspired by the National Art Collection, a host of individual needs were met, whilst not wavering on quality or delivery. This was enabled because Right Past Street's trusted relationship was able to reach those people, and the National Gallery, because of the time that they invested, were able to shape projects and programmes that were appropriate for those individuals. The workshop sessions were joyous and memorable for all who took part. But perhaps the highlight of the project for us were the unexpected additions that can only be attributed to the strength of our partnership. One of these additions involved pupils from Atlas Primary School being invited to review and pick apart the National Gallery's new app, The Keeper of Paintings, Mischievous... Can't say that word.
Mischievous Masterpieces. I
Thank you.
I can't say it.
The original Keeper of Paintings app was developed by Arcade for young visitors to the gallery, but as part of the National Gallery's 200-year celebration, they wanted to commission a new app that could be accessed by children across the country. Midway through our working relationship, we were asked if a group of children from the school would like to support the development of this app by testing it at beta stage before its final release. This was such an exciting opportunity to be able to bring to the school and to demonstrate to the children that their opinions are valid and valued. Just by way of giving, I suppose, a little bit more insight into the challenges that the teachers face at that particular primary school, Atlas Primary supports a cohort of children that speak over 60 languages, with 42% of those pupils qualifying for pupil premium, which is significantly higher than the 25% national average. The project began with a visit to the school by the National Gallery team and Arcade, and Beth, of course, who shared the initial stage of the app with the wider school before being scrutinised more closely by 15 Year 5 experts. And not to criticise Beth, I'm sure you'll agree that they came up with many findings, many suggestions, and they were all super interesting and super valid. This feedback was taken back to Arcade HQ, and it was used to influence the final phase of the development of the app before its national release. And in return for their expertise and their feedback, the pupils were invited to visit the National Gallery, to try out the new app that they had influenced, and to visit the gallery that they'd heard so much about. For many of the children, this was their first opportunity to visit London, and for some of them, it was their first trip on a train. What started out as a visit from the Art Road Trips mobile art studio grew into so much more. CPD training for Atlas Primary School teachers, take-one picture workshops for pupils, family trips to Doncaster Gallery and Museum that they'd never visited despite it being on their doorstep, a collaboration between Year 5 pupils, Arcade and the National Gallery's education team. What I will say, though, is that I was wary of a partnership with a national project such as this, such as the National Gallery. My fear was that a place like Bawlby Bridge might feel like they were having a project done to them, or worse still, that we were ticking a box. And I feel, as I've already said, very protective about the community on Bawlby Bridge and the relationship that we've built there. But the closeness and the strength of our working relationship with the National Gallery team and the care and commitment to the community has been so intense, so strong. It has allowed for learning to flow both ways between both organisations. Our community has not just been seen by them, but it has been valued. That's us. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panel. Just like such a extraordinary, varied and dynamic kind of set of projects. We've got about 5 minutes for questions because we're on quite a tight schedule, but I thought it would just be good to pick up some of the themes that are coming through from the Mentimeter questions. And I guess the first one that's come up quite a bit is that kind of challenge around how one engages communities from the very beginning, so that kind of idea and the concept as well as the production. And I'd be interested to know, Ross and Emily, kind of did you go in with an initial idea? How was the shape? I mean, you talked about that kind of history of music in Sunderland. So what drove the very first concept of the idea to work with?
Is that working? Yeah. I think we basically began with some deep listening, and we worked in Sunderland, as I mentioned, since 2022. So we had built these brilliant foundations and partnerships in Sunderland Culture and Sunderland Empire, and Ross and all of the amazing artists and people we started to meet in the city. So we just listened. We had a lot of cups of tea. We spent a lot of time with our community partners. We listened, yeah, and then the concept grew from that in close collaboration as a reflection back of what we felt we were hearing.
Yeah, I mean, not much to add. I think that Helen Green at Sunderland Culture did a great job of introducing Emily and Dan to the right sort of people, and a huge amount of kind of doers and promoters and organisers and artists in the city. And I think those ideas just slowly coalesced into the track list for the show, really.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And another question, I think one of the questions here is the examples have largely been kind of urban ones. And I guess one of the questions, and I think I can answer this, but I'll ask you, Beth, is that, have you also gone to rural communities? I noticed somebody with a transported T-shirt on, so I'm guessing that is true, but
yes.
But an understanding, and whether there are different challenges or issues in the kind of partnerships you've had there?
Yeah. Oh, listen. So in terms of how we commissioned it, we in about 2022 we put out we did lots of surveys. We did a research report, surveys, and lots of interviews across the UK to focus on deprived areas and to really look at kind of change makers and influential people, such as Sally, in those areas as well. And that's how we kind of chose those communities. And I'm looking at Scott, who's in Somerset on the front row at Seed. It really is across the UK in all very different areas. And they all have different needs and disadvantages as well. So that's why it has to be so tailor-made to those communities.
Great, thank you. And then a question around the kind of longevity of partnerships. And I guess I'll ask you this time, because you talked about a number of partnerships you've got with the Liverpool Phil and others. And what's the sort of longest, I guess, embedded partnership? And what do you think's been the kind of key conditions behind having that sort of sense of longevity and legacy?
Is that on? Yeah. So the longest one has been with Open Theatre so far. It was sort of almost immediate because the consortium of the CPP had really identified that local need as they saw it to be addressed. So we sort of acted on that really quickly. But I always remind people that it's only for as long as you're invited by Barrovians. So we've got community advisors, but also the audiences that work on a specific project will always be part of that process of planning the next stage, and if they want it, first of all, yes or no, and then how they want it. So it's accidentally a long-term partnership. We didn't necessarily plan it to be a long-term partnership. It could have been a one-off project, but the people locally choose to keep it going.
Great, thank you. And then finally, I guess there's a number of questions about what's the kind of legacy of all of this work. And I guess I'll ask you, Sally, because you talk, very passionately about that estate and a kind of long-term relationship from that. What do you think you'll take from the experience of working with the National Gallery? What's the kind of legacy beyond this experience?
I mean, it's been really interesting for us. Anna and I have had conversations about how we move our project forward and how we continue our relationship. And the magic words that came from Anna were, we want to continue to work with you, but we want to work with you on your terms. We want you to work with the community to understand where they would like to take it next. And that's a really beautiful opportunity for us, for them, to be able to decide whether they want to continue and how they'd like to continue it.
Great, thank you. And I think one of the themes is that sense both that I've heard is that thing about listening, about really understanding what is the interest of the people that you're working with and not to make assumptions. And I guess to find those sort of moments of joy, but also of how you continue that so it doesn't feel like it's something that just appears and disappears, because I guess communities have had a lot of that. So it feels really important that it has that length.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the additions that we're adding to the project now is that the housing association that managed the estate have gifted us an empty shop unit on the estate so that we can run work from within the estate, but not from a service provider's building, because there's a lot of distrust. Whereas if it's an empty shop on a precinct, that feels different. Yeah. So many of those service providers have said, actually, we'd like to run activities alongside you in this setting, because we feel that people are more likely to go into that space and engage with us and you as part of that work.
Great, brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Really good luck in Sunderland, because it's like imminent at the end of April. Go on the website, you can book tickets, anyone nearby. But thank you very much to the panel. As I say, hopefully they'll at least be around in the coffee break, have a chat if there's any further questions that we didn't get to. But I'd just like to say thank you very much and then hand back to Rebecca, who will do us the coffee break.